Hey, Bo and Luke Nation. We are back again. We have a great episode. My name is Bo. I'm your co-host.
And I'm Luke Carignan, your other co-host. And today we have Joanie Courtney, who you might recognize from the Maria Bartiromo show. Every once a month, actually, she helps Maria roll out the new jobs report. And what a jobs report we got yesterday, Bo.
It's incredible. Amazing.
Joanie, one of my favorite people to talk to, and what a great career that she's had. So for those that don't know, Joanie is the president of RemX Specialty Staffing. She's the chief workforce analyst at EmployBridge. She's a motivational speaker. She's an expert commentator and contributor to national news media on workforce and labor trends. As I said, you can catch her on Fox News every month. She's part of the board of directors and an officer at the American Staffing Association. She is recognized as one of the most powerful women in staffing by the Staffing Industry Analyst in 2017, 2018, and 2019. 2020 isn't over yet, but she'll probably get that one too. And she says her favorite role is being the mom of two amazing kids. And and just what an amazing career she's already had. And I think just, Bo, from what she's going to tell our listeners, I feel like she's just getting started. I feel like she's got so much more to go.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit.
Joanie is the epitome of let's get after it, because that's what she's done. That's what she continues to do. She talks about still having goals, big, huge goals. Even at this point in life, and when many of us will say you made it, but she's still pushing forward, like we try to inspire all of our listeners to just keep doing, just keep going, go after it, get after it, and reach your dreams.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct.
And oh, by the way, if you want to see Joanie, go to theboandlukeshow.com and you'll see her bio. You'll see information about her. You can listen to us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Those are our two top platforms. So at your leisure, check them out. Send us feedback. If you want to be a guest, hit up the guest request on the website and send it to us, and we'll take a look.
Give us feedback too. We take that to heart, good and bad. We're all about growth here at the Bo and Luke Show. Let's jump right in. Joanie, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Of course. So Bo and I caught you this morning on Fox Business. What a shock to the system of what the job market did.
Absolutely. I think everyone was surprised. Certainly I was. I think the hosts even of the show were scrambling as we got the numbers. We thought there was a mistake. Economists had predicted that the economy would have lost 8 million jobs for the month of May. And we actually saw it rebound, and 2.5 million jobs were created for the month. So that was just such great news. And I truly believe right now, our country needed a little bit of good news today, to see some hope that the economy is coming back and that things could get back to normal or some kind of normal. I mean, we still are dealing with, 13.3% unemployment, millions, probably still like 20 million people are unemployed. So by no means are we out of the woods yet, but there is some hope out there that businesses are starting to reopen and come back. And there was job creation in so many sectors. So definitely a good Friday today.
It's fantastic. What sector shocked you the most?
What shocked me the most was the travel and leisure sector, because they did have the greatest job losses in April. They had lost over 7 million jobs. And I didn't expect to see that sector rebound as much as it did. They gained 1.2 million jobs for the month of May. So I thought that was a really good sign. Like, what a swing, right? To see that you'd have a loss of 7 million and then they're coming back, they're hiring, because travel, leisure, as we all know, it's just been shut down. No one is leaving their home, right? So I was surprised to see that, come back. Also, retail had some job growth as well. So that was a positive sign. Unfortunately, we're not seeing those retail jobs, with the stores, the brick and mortar stores that, people aren't coming back to, shopping. We're all doing it online. So that sector is starting to rebound, but they're going to continue to struggle as well.
Yeah, that's a bummer that some of those didn't come back. It's crazy that, travel and leisure. So you said 1.2 million. So is that, am I calculating this right? That's roughly half the jobs that we added were in that sector.
Correct. Now, if you look at the sectors, actually I'm glad you asked me that, because when I say 2.5 million jobs were created for the month, if you look at the private sector actually added 3 million jobs, which was really positive.
Wow.
The government lost 585,000 jobs. So that's how we came up with the 2.5 million. But what was really very positive was construction added over 400,000 jobs. The manufacturing sector added 225,000 jobs. So there really were a lot of good indicators in this report that many sectors are coming back across the board.
That's wonderful news. It, as you said, our country really, really needs it. What a great thing to be able to talk about. Joanie, Bo and I have some questions put together for you. And for all of our listeners, if you're familiar with Joanie, first of all, she's fantastic. She's brilliant. She's such a successful professional. And if you don't know Joanie, then you need to look her up. Go to joaniecourtney.com. Start following what she does, because I'm telling you, she's a force to be reckoned with. So what we wanted to focus on here was just questions that get more to the bottom of, like, well, who is Joanie Courtney really? Right? And what has made you successful, and, just a delight to be around. Right. So I have some that are in no particular order. I think Bo and I are just going to just run with these. Bo, do you want to pick a first one and just run with it?
Yeah, let's get going. So, but before we do that, I have a question for you, because you're an expert. And I asked this to a university professor, economics professor once, because I did not know. So I really want to validate his answer. So the jobs,
I don't know. You're going to
it's all in your lane.
It's a jobs, professor. That's not good.
the jobs. No, it's specific to the jobs numbers themselves and so forth. My brain told me, and I didn't know the answer, but I was thinking to myself that with all of our automation today, there has got to be a link between all the unemployment systems that are tracking claims and so forth. And he shot me down and he said, Bo, that's not it. It's survey data. So survey data is going out, companies respond, and that's how those numbers are formulated. Is that correct?
Yes, that professor is correct. There are multiple surveys. So there's the household survey, which, truly is kind of old school when you think about it, but a lot of phone calls, and, it's done during a period of time, a 1-week period of time, the prior month, to kind of capture, are people unemployed, or, are they furloughed, or are they still working? So it is interesting. It does make you kind of scratch your head sometimes and question, is this data really accurate? The unemployment claims data, though, is accurate data. So that is tracked, through the systems by the states and reported up. So we do have accurate unemployment claims data. So there are systems out there. And then you have other reports, like the ADP employment report is actual data that is based on payroll data of private businesses. So you can look at all of those, different reports and kind of get a good cross section. But, you always think, okay, that's why the revisions are so important. Every month when the jobs data is released, they do revise the prior 2 months. So I'm always looking at the revision data. Yeah. And, it was interesting. Today, things were pretty much the same. We didn't see any big revisions one way or another. But certainly we'll be watching that next month.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the clarification, the validation, if you will. It's good to know. So tell us where you grew up, how you got started, where you went to school or to college, or how did your journey that got you to where you are today, how did that begin?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question because, I do believe my upbringing definitely put me into where I am today and certainly made me who I am today, as it does for most of us. But I grew up in Queens, New York. So one of the 5 boroughs, right, of New York, right outside Manhattan. And, people always love to say to me, well, you don't really sound like you're from New York, but I always take that as a compliment in some ways. But there are a few words that I say that you'll hear it and you'll say, oh, yeah, she's a New Yorker. So I grew up in Queens. My parents also were from Queens, Bayside, Queens. And, they were very young. They were married in their early 20s and, had dated, they were like high school sweethearts. And they just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, actually on May 23rd. So I'm super excited for them. Unfortunately, they were in quarantine, but they still celebrated and had a nice lobster dinner and stuff, which was fun.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So they were high school sweethearts. They married in their early 20s. And a year later, within a year, they had me. So I am the oldest of 4 girls.
Wow.
And I really believe that part of the reason why I have been successful and even, moved up maybe in the corporate world was I came from a family that was just very female dominated in a way, just having a family of 4 girls, never having a brother. I never knew anything different. And my parents really raised us to believe that we could do anything we wanted to do, anything we set our mind to, but we had to work hard at it. And I saw the work ethic definitely demonstrated by both my parents. So they were teaching us and showing us, my dad's an electrician. My mother went back to school when I was young and became a nurse. And so I really learned that if you wanted to have a good life or you wanted to buy a house or buy a new car, I remember it was such a big deal. My dad had got my mom a Cadillac one time, which was such a big deal for them, to go out and buy a Cadillac because they both really weren't raised with that much. So it was hard earned and well deserved. And they really taught, I believe they really taught me and my sisters the value of hard work. But in addition to that, they believed in us. And I've said many times, they gave me the greatest gifts of, instilling confidence and, unconditional love to me and to my sisters. And that really kind of made me go out and think, okay, if I want to go climb the corporate ladder, then I'm going to work hard at it and put my mind to it. And if I put in, the effort and I'm dedicated to it, then I deserve, right, to have that seat or to have a seat at the table or to have that next job promotion. And it did hit me, I think, probably when I was in my 30s. I remember thinking, okay, I'm in a boardroom of a publicly traded company, and I was giving a report to a board of directors. It might have even been my early 40s, but I was the only woman in the room. And I didn't think anything of it, but I started to look around and go, how come there's not more women in the room? And there needs to be. There absolutely needs to be. So, I really attribute that to my parents because my mother told me, if you want to be president of the United States, you can be president of the United States. I didn't grow up thinking I couldn't do anything.
I think that's awesome. I only have daughters, so I think that is amazing. And I have a 26-year-old who that is exactly what she wants to be, president of the United States.
Love it. I love that.
She has been letting everybody know that since she was I don't know, 14, 15 years old. Yeah. And if anyone can do it, she can do it.
Well,
It's
and see,
fantastic.
just what you said is so encouraging, to have a father that would say, if anyone can do it, you can do it. You can absolutely do that. If you want to get into politics, and take on a role like that, and encouragement. I think sometimes there are parents that don't realize the words that they use can be discouraging, to their children. So I am a big believer in support and confidence, and that it's okay to fail too. You can make mistakes. I've made a ton for sure in my life. I continue to make them, but the key is to get back up and to learn from them. Don't make them again, and keep moving forward. But that's wonderful. I hope your daughter goes for it.
Yeah, I hope so too. But that's great advice. To all of our listeners, that's just fantastic advice. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay. As long as you learn from them, take all the lessons and then go back out and go after it again, and try not to make the same mistake twice, right? Just keep at it and keep at it. Great stuff.
Absolutely.
On that note, what's the best advice you've ever received? And it could be anywhere in life or in your career.
I have to think about that one. The best advice. Can I give you my top two that come to mind?
100%. Yeah.
I think the best advice I've received is that I've had some great mentors in my life, and one in particular knew how career oriented I was and how ambitious I was, but I also am nuts about my kids, and they come first, in my life. And anyone that knows me really well knows that, I'm just head over heels for my children. So, it's a juggle, trying to balance, your kids and having time with them and not missing the really important things. And then, also wanting this career and wanting to climb the corporate ladder and trying to juggle it all. So that's something I've always tried to work at. But some of the best advice that I received was around those topics. And one was, if you're going to take, a big job that requires you to travel, you really need to think about having the right structure and resources in place to help you with managing that all. And don't be afraid to ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with hiring help. Eventually you get to a point in your career that maybe you can hire someone to help you do the laundry, or you hire someone to clean your house, or you hire someone to help you with driving your kids back and forth to activities when you're out of town. There's a part of me that I think, and maybe it's the Catholic in me and the guilt side, that, you feel guilty if you're not doing it all. And I think there's a difference between doing it all and wanting it all, or maybe even having it all, doing it all and having it all, because you can have both. You can have it all, but you're not going to be able to do everything, and you are going to have to go out and hire some help, and that's okay. So that was great advice, because I think I'm the type of person that might have, took the big job and juggled it all during the week, and then my weekends would have been spent catching up on everything, and instead I was able to really take those weekends and enjoy my kids and not have to feel like I had to do 20 loads of laundry or something on the weekend, that I could just have fun with my kids. Yeah. So that's one. And the other thing real quick that I'll add is, another mentor of mine said, definitely plan great vacations with your kids. When you're a working mom, you need to at least have, whether it's that week in the summer or 2 weeks in the summer, or you take them somewhere for spring break, but make sure you make that a priority, because those are the memories that, are outside the normal day-to-day stuff. And you can also remind your kids, hey, we wouldn't be taking these amazing vacations if I wasn't working, but then use that time to really disconnect and to be present and enjoy that with your children. And so that's something I've really tried to do as well.
That's amazing advice. And I think everybody out there struggles with that at any given point in their lives. I struggle with it. I know I do.
Yeah. And I think once your kids get to a certain age, they see your success. They know that mom and dad, or just mom, whatever the case might be, is working hard, and that's why maybe they have the lifestyle that they do. And I think they come to a point where you can even share with them. It's like, I can't do everything. I'm a human being, right? I can't do everything in your life, so I need some help getting you to your soccer practice or whatever, so that we can enjoy the weekends as a family. And I think they understand. I think they appreciate it, just like your employees appreciate it when you're honest and transparent and
Yes.
open. The children get to a certain age and they start to understand that as well. So that's
Yes, I
great.
agree. And then I think you're also setting that example, right, of hard work, but also not missing the important things, whether it's a school event or the dance recital. And, you can't make everything, but I try to pride myself, even in the fact that I would have never missed a birthday. And I travel a lot, but, even if I had an assistant, she always knew there's one day I'm not traveling. I will always, be there for my kids. And luckily, I've been able to do that so far.
Yeah, that's
It's
great.
amazing. And I guess on top of that, another question I have. So this year has been crazy for everybody, right? These events are nuts. This year, what has become more and less important?
I'm glad you asked me that question. I really have learned a lot over the last few months. I've learned, number one, that I can work from home more than I thought I could. I can work virtually and be effective, and in some ways even communicate more. I mean, we're using, right, Zoom and,
Yeah.
video conferencing and all these, different things more than we ever have before. And I think that's a great thing. Just to the last point that we were talking about, I don't always have to jump on a plane to go see someone. And I can't tell you both how many times, I've been on the 6 a.m. flight and flown to Atlanta for, really important meetings that were so important. I don't know, we probably could have done them on a Zoom call and then, come back, whether it's that night or the next day, and I have learned that we don't always have to do that. You think of all the time that might have been wasted getting up probably at 4 o'clock in the morning to make the 6 o'clock flight, driving to the airport, then when you get to the city and get a rental car or an Uber, and just all the time that's actually wasted. I think we can actually learn how to be more productive. And I guess it's not so great for the airline industry or for travel and leisure, because it's going to be hard to get that to come back to those levels. But we can be very, very productive. So I do think that has been a really good thing. But on the other side of that, that doesn't mean that, you can't completely replace those face-to-face meetings and face-to-face discussions that sometimes you just have to have in person. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to have more balance with that. I run a division for EmployBridge where, I have offices throughout the country, and there's nothing like going to visit a branch and spend a day or two with the team and be in their market, go see customers, right? You want to see the customers and be out at their sites face to face. So, I do think that's the piece that's really been missed over the past couple months, and definitely the part that I'm kind of itching to get back to,
Yeah. I bet. Yeah, because your presence can just make a big difference too, right? Because if they're not used to seeing you around, right? And let's say they see you on Fox, right? And then all of a sudden, wow, she's in our office right now. Like that must be a really good feeling for them to have that.
Well, especially if it's an office that's performing really well, or, maybe you want to take them out to dinner and celebrate with them, or, give them some recognition. There's nothing like being in person, to be able to do that.
Yep, I would agree. I think the presence helps you build the relationships with people, whether they work for you, don't work for you. It's that presence that can really enhance that. when you're doing the Zoom meetings like this, I have come to find, and Luke and I have been talking about this, where you can actually, I think you can actually be more productive in your meeting. It almost forces, because we got to look at the camera. We're looking at people on the screen. So everybody can't sit there and, look at their, be distracted with their phone, because everybody's watching you, right?
Right.
If you get in a conference room, you might get away with checking your email on your phone or texting or something like that, which is a bad habit, but you get away with it because maybe someone's given a presentation and they're looking at the screen, up on the wall, versus, if you're doing Zoom meeting, my presentation might be right here on the screen in front of me. So I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at the people, and you can see if they're paying attention, not paying attention. But I agree with you. It's the in-person stuff really builds the relationships. I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
And just being present. I don't know if either of you caught that new Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, that came out, but they asked somebody that worked with him. I want to say it was his trainer. We're probably going to get emails and tweets that I'm totally wrong, that it wasn't his trainer, but let's just go with that for right now. But they said his number one strength was not his physical ability. It wasn't his raw talent or his work ethic. They said his number one quality that made him successful was his ability to be present. And they said Michael Jordan is present every single moment of his life. They said he's a mystic. They said people go to other countries and spend their entire lives trying to be more present. He's just naturally present no matter what he's doing. And that's why he was such a good player.
Wow, that's fascinating. And you think about that, that's such a gift. I know it's something I really have to work at, and definitely room for improvement. But that there's nothing like being in the moment, and that's a great lesson that I think we probably all could do a better job of, right? And it's hard, just like the things we're talking about with juggling, right? A family, career, what's going on in the world. Our minds are jumping, right, to all these different places and thinking, oh, I got to do this. Oh, I'm worried about that. But really that gift of just being present in the moment is so important.
Right. Someone told me today that apparently your mind can go through and think about over 500 words a minute, and your mouth can only speak like somewhere around 200 words a minute. So what happens is people don't realize it, but their mind is just running away from everything else that they're doing because our bodies actually can't keep up with the, horsepower that our mind puts out.
I believe that. That's probably why I say the wrong thing all the time.
Yeah, me too.
I know I've been accused of people looking at me and saying, do you have something to say? And I don't even know I'm doing it, but like my lips are moving, but I'm not speaking. And I think that's that connection, Luke, where my mind is way ahead. I want to say something. I can't say it fast enough. And yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
So when you hear the word successful, and I think based on where just your journey and your career, you've been uber successful. But what does that mean? What does that mean to you? What does being successful mean for Joanie Courtney and in your world?
Well, I think success is definitely different for each of us. And it's really something that we need to define for ourselves. Like, what does success look like for me or for you? And it's a very individual choice, and that's what's so wonderful about, people really taking the time to think about what do they want to accomplish? What goals do they have? For me personally, when I defined what success was going to be for me, it really was that I did want to have a professional career where I could move up into a leadership role, manage a team, grow a business, see that business, accelerate and be profitable, help other people be successful. I really was passionate about that. I've spent, the last 20 years really trying to help people with goal setting, both professionally and personally. So for me, success was also, how do I help other people achieve their dreams? But I will tell you something that someone had asked me once, about kind of this along the same lines about being successful. I never imagined that I would be in the role that I am today.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is now that I'm here today, I still feel like I could go so much further and do so much more. So I really love to give advice to people to dream big. Because when I look back, I probably didn't even dream big enough at the time. I didn't know any different, right? I really didn't know what I could accomplish. So, just like your daughter, Bo, that we were talking about before, you got to dream big and you got to set your sights on some pretty big goals and aspirations. And so, again, it's a personal journey. It's definitely something that each of us has to define for ourselves. I do feel like, yes, I'm successful, but to me, now it's not about achieving success. Now it's just about what else can I do and what impact can I have and how can I help other people? What else would I like to do with my career in the future? So kind of saying, hey, I've got a long runway here. At least I hope I do. And would really love to see where else I can go with that.
Yeah, I think that is super good advice. And I think the younger, a lot of us learn that later in life and you become more wise and more mature as you age and have more experience behind you. But the more younger people can grab onto those types of things earlier in life and get them implemented, it just sets them up for all types of opportunity in their futures, right? I often think about, and I would ask you, what you think about it. It's a very common question for someone to ask, why are you successful, or what type of success are you looking for? And if you flip the script and you say, Joanie, what makes you valuable, right? So if you go after value, like, why am I valuable to people around me, to my company, to my organization, to my family, then success can be the outcome of the value you bring to the table.
I love that. I really do love that.
Yeah, I'm glad you love it. I think that I think that's huge. So I know when I talk to people or you're trying to give advice, it's find the value or that you want to bring to the world in those big dreams, right?
Right.
If you focus on your value, and that goes back, even if you break it down to your skills, your abilities, your education, what it is that you have, and build up that toolbox for yourself so that you can bring value.
Yeah, and what else I love about that, Bo, is, I would much rather people think of me as someone that added value to them personally or added value to my company that I work for than to have them think of me as successful. To me, that's much more powerful.
Yeah, cool. Super cool. So if you were looking back, what advice today would you give your 20-year-old self when you were that age?
Probably the same advice: dream big, dream bigger.
That's good. Dream bigger. Right.
Dream bigger. And, I am the type of person too that I've learned, through the years that, I'm someone that kind of goes with my instinct, or, they say go with your gut. And there's a lot of goodness with that. But as I've, aged and, matured over the years, I think I've learned to balance that. So I still, rely a lot on, my instincts. That's a big part, I think, of what makes me, successful or valuable, is that I usually have good instincts, but I've learned to balance it with data and information and asking more questions and maybe not jumping in so quickly, and that you really have to weigh that out. So if I was talking to my 20-year-old self, I would love to tell her that and explain, how to really look at the whole picture. And that's something that I still, certainly continue to try and do a better job of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome.
And then on the flip side of that, what would 20-year-old Joanie advise to current Joanie?
Yeah, don't lose that, that drive, right? I think of 20-year-old Joanie, I was so ambitious. And, now that I'm 49, so I'm going to be, I just turned 49, but in my 50th year, as they say.
Sure.
So I think the 20-year-old Joanie would encourage me today to say, you still have an opportunity to achieve more, to do more, to, travel the world, don't think that you've arrived by any chance of the imagination.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I meet so many people who even in their mid 40s and they're just at a point in life and they might still have a dream, but they say, I hear it. They say, I'm too old. I'm like, you're too old. No, you don't know how many more years you have left. Right.
None of us do. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Good advice. Good stuff.
So true. Let's see. I'm going to go on to some fun questions if that's all right. Let's see here. And then we can come back to these. Best purchase you've ever made of $100 or less?
Ooh, I would say wireless headphones because I love to run. And I mean, it's just so great to be able to go for a run and not have the old wires or anything. I love to listen to music, listen to podcasts, different things like that. But that would definitely be my best purchase. I can't live without them.
That's good advice. And then people can listen to Joanie on the Bo and Luke show through their new wireless headphones.
That's right.
That is true.
That's right. Do you believe anything others think is insane?
Do I believe anything? Are you talking about like conspiracy theories?
Anything. I hate olives and pickles. Can't stand them.
All right. I got to think about this one. Let's see, Luke. Do I believe anything? Well, I mean, a lot of my friends think I'm nuts for running as much as I do, but I think there's so many people out there that love it just as much as I do.
Can you quantify that? Like how much is a lot? I don't run at all. So any answer you give me is going to be a lot to me, but.
Oh, well, the older I get, I slow down a little bit, but I run probably 5 days a week. And I'll say a quick run for me is 3 miles. So that would be a short one. Yeah. And usually I run longer on the weekends. And, I actually ran the New York City Marathon, which I'm super proud of because being from, New York and being from Queens, growing up there, it was such a thrill to run through the city and the 5 boroughs. But so some people might think that's kind of nutty. Like, how can someone enjoy that much? I mean, I ran the whole marathon smiling the entire time. And it was one of the best days of my life. I had so much fun. I was high-fiving kids in the street and listening to music. And, that it's just such a natural high. So,
yeah, that's
good for you.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
I've always found running, I've done never done a marathon, multiple half marathons, 5 or 6 Army 10 milers. But I remember traveling for business. You're in a new city. The best way to get to know the city is to leave your hotel early in the morning or whatever and go run. Right?
Yes, definitely.
And if you do it like early in the morning before everybody's kind of up and at it, then you really get the full sights of the whole city that you're in. I thought that was a great way. Just get up and run.
Right. And I think, like, back to your question, Luke, I think that's why some people probably think I'm crazy. Like, we could have a meeting in Manhattan that's starting at 8 a.m. and I'll get up at 4 and go run through Central Park early in the dark, which I know is a little crazy, but people are out there just as crazy as me doing it too.
That's a crazy. You got to watch for the bicyclists and all that.
Yeah.
They're out there in droves.
Come back, have breakfast, get ready for the meeting, and show up on time. And they're like, "What? Why did you do that?" But
good for you though. That's great.
But it's something too. I think it keeps me sane, to be honest. Is just kind of having that outlet. Everyone needs something. For some people, maybe it's meditation or prayer or a different outlet. But for me, that's what works.
Awesome. And walk us through. So this brings me right to my next question. So something that comes up in every successful person that we interview, it comes up in our NFL players. There's actually advice given from Jim Harbaugh over at Michigan, is they all say they have a daily battle rhythm that they get into. It pops up on every show. How does your battle rhythm begin? What's the Joanie morning routine? Because to get to where you obviously got to kill it every day. I imagine you're doing things that it's not just supernatural that you're like this.
Well, it's funny because it changes for sure. I think, being a mom and, having young kids can be really different, right? When you're getting up early to take care of children, whereas now my children are both in high school and much more independent. But, I can tell you about, the last 2 years, I would say, I've been very regimented about getting up early. And even if I know I do have to get my children up for school at a certain time, I'm getting up an hour to an hour and a half before them so that I can have some quiet time to myself. Mm-hmm. And, I do read a devotional every single morning. It's the first thing I reach for before I even make a cup of coffee. But then, usually after that, I will have my coffee, maybe do a little bit more reading. I really enjoy, sometimes we'll just read some scripture from the Bible in the morning, just really think, have some quiet time to myself. And then a lot of times after I've done that, then that's when I'll go run and really get kind of that physical outlet for myself. So I try to do that early, and I can tell you it works for me. I realize it doesn't work for everyone, but I know myself that if I said, I'm just going to, get up and then 2 minutes later get the kids up for school, I wouldn't get that workout in. I wouldn't have had that quiet time, and my day could have gotten really hectic or out of control. So I really protect that time for myself, and it kind of seems to balance out the rest of the day for me.
Nice.
That's great. That's great. What advice would you give to listeners that don't do anything right now? They wake up, hit snooze twice, and then try to keep up with the day. Where can they start?
I think if I could give advice to say, if you're not giving yourself any time alone, try to find at least 15 minutes. You can start small. It doesn't need to be that you need that hour, but I would encourage you to at least have 15 minutes of quiet time that you could think, or you could, possibly do a meditation. There's these great apps. I use the Calm app on my phone, and, they have their daily meditations or, different, such a variety of things that you can use. And some of them are just 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's amazing if you start doing that on a regular basis and even made it a commitment to say, okay, I'm going to try it this week. This week I'm going to get up early and give myself 15 minutes of quiet time and listen, to a meditation app for, 10 minutes a day. I would be curious to talk to them at the end of the week and see what a difference it made in their life. Like, did they feel like they were more balanced? Did they think that they could, or did they feel like they can think clearly, or a little bit clearer than they could maybe the previous week? So I really encourage people to make it a priority. I know it's tough. It's not easy. You kind of want to hit the snooze button, but I know that if I hit the snooze button, that I'm depriving myself of that quiet time that is such a gift to me that I would feel like I really missed out on something. So eventually you get to a point where you really protect that time and you make sure it happens.
That's great advice. That's awesome. And I am also a huge meditation fan. I know I don't look like it, like listeners can't see me now, but if you see my face, most people wouldn't go, hey, I bet he meditates. But I totally agree with you, Joanie. And I can see a huge difference between the weeks when I do meditate and I'm consistent with it, and then weeks that I don't as well. So that's a great call out.
Yeah, I always think of that saying that, when your computer's working, sometimes you just need to unplug it and start, replug it back in, start it over. I kind of feel like we need to do that, right, with our bodies and our minds. Sometimes you just need to unplug. And one more thing I have to say to your listeners is, whatever you do, don't use that quiet time to check your emails or try to catch up with work. That's not why you're doing this. And that could be a really big mistake if you kind of go down that path. This isn't about getting up earlier so that you can do more work or catch up. This is about giving yourself the gift of some time to really think and get some clarity in your life.
That's right. Now, in the morning, do you give yourself like a buffer, like some time when you won't even look at your phone when you wake up, or are you? Because I go both ways. Some days I won't, and that's usually a better idea, just to not check my email when I first wake up. How do you do it?
Yeah, I do put my phone aside because it's so easy to get distracted, and I keep my phone on silent, so I don't get interrupted. And the time in the morning is also the time that I find, if I want to write an article about something or a topic, usually that time in the morning is the time that I will have the most clarity to do it. So again, it wouldn't happen probably at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night for me because I'm exhausted, from the day. So I know if I really want to work on like a blog post or write an article, that I need to make sure I use that time. So I put my phone aside, I don't look at it. And, I really try to protect that. As I mentioned before, it's super important to me.
It's great advice. I hope listeners are taking notes, and the great thing about a podcast is you can hit the pause button and you can go back and listen again if you didn't take notes or hear everything that Joanie's saying. So please do that, because this is fantastic advice. It seems simple. It's not simple, but you have to start. You have to do it. You just have to create a plan, create your battle rhythm, and start. You miss it, start it the next day. Just don't give up on yourself, because it can be done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even if you get off track, you miss a day, you miss a week, get back to it. Don't give up.
That's right. I just read something yesterday that said action is so much more important than information. And it said if information were more important than action, then right now we'd all be rich and have 6-pack abs, because all you'd have to do is go onto Google and figure out how to do it. It's just those individual choices you make every day that get you to that goal.
Yeah, that's right. You have to execute, right? Otherwise,
that's right.
You got to execute. Yeah. That's right. Absolutely right. So Joanie, we got to get this out there before we let you off the podcast. So how did you get to, because it's a big deal. How did you get to being a contributor for global news channel or news station like Fox Business, where you contribute the monthly jobs report and so much more? How did that all come about? And how do you feel about that? You're in it. So how do you feel about it today? And it's probably normal now for you that you're doing it, but were you nervous when it first started? How did that all come about?
Yeah, it's funny. I am glad you asked me that question, because it does kind of bring me back. It was probably over 10 years ago that I started doing it, and the truth is, I was filling in for my CEO. I was working at Adecco, and I had a great CEO who was on the news all the time. He would be on MSNBC and Fox Business, and he would talk about, the economy and the job market. And I lived in New York at the time, and the truth is, one day he just couldn't make it. And the marketing department, I guess they thought, they probably had seen me speak at meetings, and I was a vice president with the company at the time. So they said, hey, Joanie, would you be willing to, go on Fox Business News for us? It will only be about 5 minutes. You have to talk about the job market. And, sometimes when someone asks you to do something like that, you think, oh my gosh, I've never done that before. I can't do that. And I just thought about it, and I'm like, sure, I'll give it a I'll give it a try. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I felt like they would prepare me. I would study the data. How bad could it be?
Mm-hmm.
I'll go give it a shot. So I did. And it was a great opportunity. I mean, I remember the first time being there and being in Manhattan at their headquarters, on Avenue of the Americas, and it was such a big deal. They even like go to the green room and they touch your makeup up and and go on camera, and it was just a really great experience. So for me, I thought, wow, that could be a once in a lifetime thing. There's your minute of fame. Maybe I'll never do it again. And the next month kind of came by, and the network actually called and requested me instead of the CEO.
Oh, wow.
So we joked about it, but they kept calling and requesting me back. So one thing led to another. And, I've been a frequent guest, and then, went from doing segments to being on shows for an hour, and we'll even be on Maria Bartiromo's show sometimes as kind of a co-host for 3 hours. And
Wow.
it's just really been an incredible experience for me, and I've enjoyed it. I've met so many amazing people, have made great connections, but most importantly, I think it's an opportunity to share that there are opportunities out in the workforce. I always try to focus on where their opportunities are at and to give people some hope, because there's also a lot of negative news out there, as you both know. And, I try to stay away from that side of it.
Gotcha. So since you've done numerous shows with Maria Bartiromo and co-hosted with her, does she often reference the people on her show by their first and last name when she's talking to them? She did that to you this morning.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what? She called her by her first and last name in the same sentence. I laughed. I chuckled.
Yeah, she does. She does do that quite a bit. Funny that you say that, but I've had the pleasure of being on her show now for many years. She is a phenomenal woman. She'd be a great person for you guys to interview, just because she's talk about a strong female, who really kind of cracked the glass ceiling there, and she still continues to do so. So she's just been someone that I really have admired. And then, I've also been on other networks. I know everyone associates me with Fox or Fox Business because that's what I've done the most. But, I've had a chance to be on CNN and CNBC and NBC and PBS. And, I can just say it really is, it has been a blessing for me. And it's something that I have truly enjoyed, and I hope I'll continue doing it for a long time.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations. I think that's awesome. And by all means, we would love to have Maria on our show. That would be beyond fantastic. Yeah, because it's
she
important.
Might be a little busy these days, right? I know she talks to President Trump quite a bit, but she's wonderful. She's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Yeah, that's not a whole lot more you can say about that. It's just awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That is good. I do have a couple more questions. That one of them's easy. The other one maybe not so much. The other one will be a longer one, but I'm gonna go with the longer one first. What's the best investment you've ever made? And it could be money, time, energy, or otherwise.
Well, the best investment I think I've ever made has really been in real estate.
Really?
I love to find homes that maybe need a little bit of work, that you can kind of fix them up and flip them. In fact, my daughter was saying to me the other day, she said, you really should like start a show like Fixer Upper. I love that show with Chip and Joanna Gaines. But
sure.
So right now I'm currently working on a project in New York. Bought a little house that is on the water in Amityville, Long Island, and it's right around the corner from my mom and my sister. And, I think originally it probably was a good investment, but now it's turned into something that I've put way too much money into. So I'm sure it's probably not something that I would say that particular house has been a good investment. But hopefully that's a long-term place, long-term place for me. But just, in general, I've bought and sold a lot of homes and, have really been very lucky. I've made money just about on every single home. So that's been a good investment for me.
It's so funny you mentioned that. We've actually done full podcasts about that topic. It's something Bo and I are very interested in, is real estate investing. And we actually had a guy on named Bobby Moran. He's the former CRO from EverFi in DC. And he owns a bunch of properties in DC. We've been friends for a long time, and he finally got me into it. Bo and his wife just converted their first rental property, right?
Yeah, well, from full rehab. From
full rehab.
Yeah, from a full, not a little bit of work, a ton of work.
A ton of work. Yeah.
Labor.
It's a labor of love for sure.
Yeah, and that's all. That's all my wife. She's the one with the vision. I have none of it. We looked at that house and I said, "Where's the bulldozer? Because it needs to just be bulldozed down." And she's like, "No, I think we can do this." I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and she did. She's the Joanna, right? She can see it. She has the vision, and the house is done, and it's just amazing. And she on to the next one.
That's
so I give
awesome.
If you have that vision, I give you a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, I just enjoy looking at real estate. It's something, if I ever have downtime, that's probably what I'll do in the evenings. I actually don't watch a lot of television. I'm not one of these big Netflix, series watchers, but I watch Fixer Upper, or I'm probably searching realtor.com looking at properties. And I've talked my parents into buying a condo with me that I thought was a good deal. Turned out to be a great investment for both of us. And, just kind of have fun with it. I think if you love it, and it's something that I enjoy doing, then, it can really be worthwhile.
Yeah, that's the key.
That's awesome. And then my other question was, what, as far as books go, what gift books would you recommend the most? So if you're going to give people books, what would it be?
Oh, I have to look over at my bookshelf over here and see. Well, for women executives and for men too, I really do like Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I think that's a great book. I'm definitely a fan of hers. She's got some great advice in there, really talking about women, how, talk about when you're younger, if a boy is called bossy, right, they're going to think that he's going to turn out to go run a company or be in charge. And if they say a girl is bossy, they think it can, kind of be negative. And
sure,
I believe we got to get rid of those stereotypes, So for more women, I love that book. I think that's a great book, and I encourage people, certainly to lean in. A quick read, and I'm not that good at this one, but I like this book, and it has made me rethink things. Have you guys read the Make Your Bed?
Oh yeah,
it was about and
talked about that. Yep.
Yeah. That's actually a really good book, and I'm not someone that has always been great about that. I always laugh. Like, I have a girlfriend that's the first thing she does right away, But there is. I think there's a lot to that. And, I am someone that I love to get things accomplished, and I kind of like a list where I can check things off. And I'm someone that I do have a lot of energy, and so I like to get things done. But I would recommend that book as well.
Yep, it's The Power.
Great advice.
Great advice. I love that. I love that book. Power of Accomplishment, and what it does to your mind and the mindset. Right. It's like getting up and exercising or whatever, or having that time for yourself. Right. That does. I mean, we won't get into the scientific studies, but there's so many of them where how your mind actually responds to things like that. And it just really sets you up for your day. Yes, that was a great book.
So funny. This is totally, well, it's kind of related, but I have a dog named Frank. And I try to make my bed every day because I'm really big on the power of accomplishment as well. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to accomplish this first. Frank loves to be under the covers of the bed, and I'll make the bed even before I shower. While I'm in the shower, Frank will get underneath the covers, stand up in the middle of the bed, and turn circles to make himself comfortable, like spinning a fork in spaghetti. And when I come out of the shower, the whole bed is destroyed.
You have to do it all
Every
over
morning.
again. That's
Yep.
funny. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there you go for letting your dog, right, sleep in your bed. But I have to say, I let my dog sleep in my bed too. So I'm right there with you.
I can't stop it. There's nothing I
Yeah.
can do. He runs the house now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That day's lost. Should have trained him young.
Yeah.
Yep.
He flunked out of training school, actually. It's a true story.
Gotcha. Cool.
This is great. Joanie, Bo, do you have any more questions? I know we're coming up.
Yeah, no, we could keep talking to Joanie all afternoon and evening because there's just so many fascinating things to talk about. So I would just say, we greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate you taking your time from your day to spend with us and our listeners. And it's been great.
We really do.
Super.
Thank you, Joanie. You're just an awesome person. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank both of you, Luke and Bo, for inviting me to be on your podcast. I hope your listeners enjoy it and maybe can take a little piece of it. I think, as Bo said before, it is pretty simple, but I hope there's some good nuggets that people can take away, and hope they find it motivating.
I think they will.
I definitely think they will. So, Joanie, we make sure our guests actually close out our show. So you're going to have to say to all of our listeners, that's a wrap.
That's all I have to say?
That's all you have
or you can say it however you want.
Say it however you want to say it. That's right.
Yeah.
You can add you can add accent, you can add any type of flavor you want to that. But the last, any words before that, any shout outs you want to do, by all means do them. And then when you're done, just say that's a wrap.
Well, I have to say this has been great, and it's been fun for me because you guys have kind of taken me down on memory lane on a lot of different topics, which is always fun to do. But I really have appreciated this and enjoyed it. And just want to thank you both for having me. And I guess with that, that's a wrap.